So I happened to notice this on YouTube on BBC about these people over in Norway and Sweden, and they take their babies outside in sub-zero temperatures, and they find out they're way healthier. They don't have SIDS. The babies don't have sickness, and they don't understand. No research has been done. And myself, I always thought I knew what SIDS was, because there's an outfit right now, it's called Project Hope, and they're saying that thousands of babies a day in this world die within the first 24 hours of life, and they want you to send money for research. The problem is, the only way we humans can live is converting the water that's in our body to a gas through the use of internal combustion, which is created by the heart running the lungs. And you take a 10-pound baby, or even less, a lot of babies are what, 7 pounds, 8 pounds? And of that 7, 8 pounds, 70% of that weight is water. And the baby has to create what I call a high pressure system, just like the weather itself. You have to have a high pressure system to lift the hydrogen and water up. And you need a sufficient amount of oxygen to burn what's in the baby's belly. And that conversion time happens when you take a deep breath and you exhale that, and it goes to a gas. So when you put a baby in a warm environment, okay, you're increasing the debt load, because now the baby has to create more internal combustion. And here you've only got 3.5 pounds of dry matter in that body, and the skin, which is the largest organ in the body, is just as thin as a film. So the compression, the heart's very small and it can't put out much combustion. Therefore, it can't convert that high pressure system, and it needs to be subsidized. And when they put babies in incubators, they're keeping the baby warm. That's great, but you're relying on the fact that the heart is strong enough to create enough internal combustion to create a high pressure system in where that water in that belly can be converted to a gas through the lungs, okay, just like in nature. In nature, when you have nice weather, you have a high pressure system, and it's sucking the moisture through all the crops on the ground, okay? You feel better because it's lifted. And then you have a low pressure system where it turns to it goes up there, it goes up in the sky high enough, and it builds up pressure, and it's converted to a liquid, and it falls back to the ground. That's why you have to spend a third of your life in a horizontal position, because you can't tax the body, because the body needs to rest a third of its life so it can convert food back into flesh and bones. Okay, it's work. And what happens is your breathing slows down, your heart slows down, but you take deeper breaths. It's like an internal combustion car engine or gas engine. Some engines are made with a short stroke, and some engines are made with a long stroke. The long stroke doesn't wear so much, and it produces just as much or more power on a piston engine. And as a result, the wear is reduced when you're sleeping because your breathing slows down. There's a lot of people, they say that there's called realm or something, and there's a 4 degree of it, and the heart and stuff can go so low that they'll actually die in their sleep because the heart rate went so low. What creates motion is how fast you can convert water in your body to a gas. Let's say you're going to race a mile. You're on a track team, and you're going to run a mile in 6 minutes. Okay? Then you're going to run a mile in 5 minutes. And the best you ever do is you run a mile in 4 minutes. In the first 4 minutes of that race, When did the most heat and the most water leave your body? Obviously, it's the 4-minute race. Okay? Because the old saying, the harder you work, the more you sweat. The human body is not life. The human body is a conductor of life. And life is two things. It's the Spirit of God, and the first thing he did in Genesis 1, chapter 2, is he converted the gas that was already here, that which was derived from prehistoric animals, and the residue from that was gas. And when he approached the earth to start rebuilding it, he converted the gas that was present from the prehistoric life, that was the liquid part was under the shell. That's why they dig for oil, because he knew he was eventually going to have man make a car, and he needed gas and oil. So that's why he made the prehistoric animals. And I get a kick out of these people think that God made this world in 7 24-hour days, when in fact he was working on it before the first man ever walked on this earth, because that's why he made these huge animals. And what he did, he concentrated these components, which I call spirit, which man refers to as he refers to them as electric, gasoline, oil, kerosene, electric, all that stuff. So he concentrates them so much that you have to take you make an engine out of steel. Now, biological life runs around 100 degrees. Cattle like 103 at the Roman, humans they say are 98.6. But when you get into car engines, they run up around 200 degrees. So the hotter you make the inside, the stronger the positive. And because years ago I wondered, how is it that like a Deutsch engine, which is air cooled, how is it they don't have the water running through the engine? How is it possible they don't burn right up? Well, the hotter something is, the faster it wants to go off to the atmosphere. So your atmosphere, oven by itself, is a positive. But the engine is way hotter than the atmosphere. So immediately it wants to escape. So that's why air-cooled engines don't burn up. It's all relative, because it only takes two things to make up all creation. And Jesus told about it in the New Testament. He told about this woman, this Samaritan woman at a well drawing water. And he says, if you knew who I was and what God has for you, you'd ask me for living water. Because he also used the word perpetual spring. We know what perpetual motion does not require fuel. And since it doesn't require fuel, it doesn't require man to work under internal combustion, because internal combustion must be sufficient enough to convert liquid water back to a gas. But from the time of Adam up until the flood, okay, the world, the environment was not suitable to raise crops like we do today, because there was a band of ice that ran around the earth from the north to the south pole, and there was not enough evaporation to grow crops like corn and oats and your regular garden. All you could do is eat the herbs of the field. And grass will grow at 33 degrees. Well, you can't plant these other crops because they require far more exposure to the sun, because the sun causes the evaporation. And when the sun come up in the morning, the dew started to go up, hit that band of ice, created a shadow on the ground, and condensation starts over again. And then when the earth turns past that shadow on the ground, then it starts up again. And God told Adam, he says, you'll never master it. And that's my reason why. That's why they had to eat the herbs of the field, and that's why God had his spirit in man, so they wouldn't be under the burden of internal combustion. Because the stronger you take plants, some plants you can just throw on top of the ground, they'll grow. But corn, potatoes, that kind of crop, they gotta be down in the ground where they have a stronger negative. When they have a stronger negative, okay, it takes longer for them to grow, and they're exposed to the sun more. and they gather more energy. But God said, here's the thing. God said, my spirit will no longer be disgraced in man. At that time, okay, he did away with perpetual motion, okay? And that's what Christ said in the New Testament about living water is like a perpetual spring. It runs by itself. In other words, the human body is not life. The human body is a conductor of life. And that's why you, like, if people have congestive heart failure, I had it myself. And when you get a congestive heart failure, what happens is your body, your heart's weak, and you start filling up with water. You get fluid. Your feet swell up, your legs swell up, your hands swell up, and you got to get rid of that water, okay? And you can't. And you can die of congestive heart failure because it's just like drowning yourself. The water has constantly got to be leaving your body because, once again, if you study electric, you're studying spirit is what you're doing, because spirit is all around.
It was at this point I asked the Gnostic Farmer for some clarification. I said, is S.I.D.S to be compared with an air-cooled engine that has a blanket wrapped around it, thus not allowing it to cool? He said that's exactly right. There's an insulating layer around the infant preventing him or her from converting water to a gas. And that's his explanation for why S.I.D.S happens. Essentially, he claims they overheat. And furthermore, he claims Scandinavian countries have known this for generations. That's why they have their babies take naps outside in the cold when it's as cold as 10 degrees below zero.